Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We just talked about week 0. It was a very weird weekend of football. There was not a lot of really great football out there for a number of different reasons, but there were close finishes, there were some great moments, and there were a couple of heroes that were born, which is always what you want. So let's get into some fall camp intel. This is the last week of fall camp. Really, a lot of them are kind of wrapping up, getting into game week. Everything is kind of kicking up a notch, obviously, but there are some couple of things that I want to talk about before we get into what is going to be a crazy week 1. And we'll start over there in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Bryce Underwood has been named the starter for Michigan this upcoming season. This was fully expected. The second he signed with them, I think it was, I don't want to say promised to him, but at least expected that he would be the starter for this team going forward. He's a freak of nature. There's no doubt about that. He's going to be the best athlete on the field pretty much every single time he's on the field, maybe except when they play Ohio State because Caleb Downs will be on the field. But at the end of the day, he is going to make jaw-dropping plays. I can almost promise you that. The thing is, can he come along quickly? And if he can, the reality is if they get a win at Oklahoma in week 2, this is a real CFP contender. Now, they have a lot of things that need to come into place, even around Bryce Underwood. I think the offensive line is going to be totally fine. The running back room, I think, is really talented, but younger guys in Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes, they need someone to step up on the outside. If Donovan McCulley can become that guy from Indiana, that would be huge for them. So, still a lot of questions. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, this guy's going to be riding the ship, and it might be this year. We'll see how quickly this thing can get off the ground. At the end of the day, Michigan fans are going to be able to see the future of their program on the field, and that's going to be a really fun thing to watch on Saturday when they face off against New Mexico. Miami's secondary is looking the part, is looking like it might be a strength going into the season. It's a shock to me. I'll be totally honest with you. I think this was going to be a better defense overall, and the secondary obviously was going to be a part of that with now I'm blanking on his name, but the guy coming in at defensive coordinator from Minnesota, very, very talented guy, and obviously this was going to be a better defense. That was almost impossible to not be a better defense from a year ago. I expected this to be kind of the group that they had to disguise in some ways. They had to kind of hide in some ways, and they were going to get beat a couple of times. Now, that still very well might happen. This is not necessarily it's obviously a zero-sum game in fall camp, so we don't really know. The reality is they feel really good about their group. OJ Federic is the guy that has come back among a group of just all transfers on the back end. It is OJ Frederic that's kind of leading the way. And then they brought in Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin in that crazy scenario that I think is still playing out in the courtrooms. And then Keontae Scott from Auburn, among a number of other guys. Ethan O'Connor came in from Washington State. They have a good group. There's no doubt about that. They have a ton of talent. They had a good amount of talent last year. So there's definitely some things they got to figure out, but really like the group that they have. I think they've done a really good job bringing in different guys that fill different needs. I'm still a little bit wary. There's no doubt about that, and we'll see what they look like on Saturday. We'll see how potent of a passing attack they're facing on Saturday in Notre Dame once C.J. Carr takes the field. But if this is a strength, this is a CFP contender. There's no two ways about it. South Carolina, their wide receivers are looking the part. So a lot of good news happening out of fall camp, as you can imagine, as the season gets closer. But this one is another one that is massive. If this can come together, South Carolina absolutely can do what they did last year and hopefully up it just a little bit to get into the field. But Nick Harbor is going to be the wide receiver 1 for this group. He's officially left track behind, is going to be a full-time football player, and that's a huge thing. He is a uniquely incredible athlete. He is a guy that, if he does lock in on football, and that is the only focus for him, which it is now, he can be a special football player. Hasn't quite put it together thus far, but obviously a huge change this offseason. We'll see how that unfolds. Mazeo Bennett going into his sophomore year after around 400 yards in his freshman year. Very talented guy. Needs to continue to rise, needs to continue to get better, but obviously someone that can fit into that wide receiver 2 role. And then Jaylen Brown is a really fun piece here that absolutely can make some plays. So they might have the guys. It's still a little bit of a tightrope walk, and I'm still a little bit worried about the overall depth of the group. But the reality is, if Nick Harbor fits into that wide receiver 1, if Mazeo Bennett fits into that wide receiver 2, you have the quarterback that can get you all the way. He is an absolute beast. He is someone that I consider to be a top 3 quarterback in the entire country, and I think he's going to do special things as long as he's surrounded by good talent. It doesn't have to be great. They just have to be able to get the job done. And as of right now, they feel pretty confident about that group going into the season. Ashton Bethel Roman is the guy making waves over at A&M on the wide receiver group. This is a huge, huge update for A&M, not because they had a problem at wide receiver. They have Casey Concepcion, they have Mario Craver, they have a number of guys that are going to make big time plays. Terry Bussey, another guy that's going to make big time plays for them, but adding depth to this group is massive. I think this is a group that is going to be really, really good. I think adding a guy that knows the system, that's been there for a little bit longer, and is comfortable with Marcel Reed maybe a little bit more than Casey Concepcion or Mario Craver is massive, especially for those early season matchups. They get Notre Dame in week 2. They're going to have to be ready for that one. And obviously, I think the other wide receivers will be more than fine, but having one of those other guys step up, having one of those guys that's been around for a while step up is a relatively big deal. And then a couple other names to watch for A&M. Jamarian Morrow is a running back that's really started to kind of break through. They have an incredibly deep room at running back, so I don't know how much you'll see him throughout the year. Hopefully a little bit more as the season goes on, but it is a really deep group. It might be a little bit hard to really crack the rotation there, but someone to watch for sure. And then Dayon Hayes came over from Colorado to Texas A&M. Very good player. Absolutely a guy that flashed for Colorado a year ago and seems to be making some waves for A&M right now. If that's the case, they can put together a very good defensive line unit and be a force on that group. So going to be awesome to watch this develop. I think if Ashton Bethel Roman can add to what these two guys and Concepcion and Craver are going to bring, this could be a very potent passing attack for A&M. USC has a standout running back, it sounds like. Wayman Jordan is a JUCO product that came up, I believe, the number 1 running back in the JUCO ranks a year ago, and he is now up to the top level. He's up in the Big Ten. I believe he's 5'9", about 220, so he is a stocky running back. He is a guy that's going to run pretty physical, but very comfortable with his hands. Absolutely someone that can make some plays in open field, and they need it. They need a guy to step up in that position. This is maybe the 4th season in a row they've had a transfer running back, so they're going to have to put it together again. Hopefully they can, and it sounds like this guy's going to be leading the way one way or the other. The other thing we talked about last week was DJ Wingfield did not get his waiver approved for this upcoming season. It sounds like Tobias Raymond might be the starter there. I don't know what USC looks like behind in terms of depth on their lines of scrimmage. I know the front line has gotten exponentially better over the last couple of years. I don't know if the depth has gotten all that better. So that's something to watch. Definitely a huge loss for them and directly affects this guy right here, Wayman Jordan. Arizona State's run game looks really good right now, and it's something that I think everyone kind of raises their eyebrow at because you can't really replace what Cam Scatterbo did a year ago. On the field, maybe you can, or you objectively can. You can objectively replace that production. What you can't replace is what he brought to that locker room, and that's something that we'll obviously see kind of play out throughout the season. They love Kyson Brown. They love Kanye Udo. They feel like they have two guys that together can make this rushing attack as good as it was a year ago. And that'll be a tall order. There's no doubt about that. Frankly, I don't know if it has to be as good as it was a year ago because I think the pass game will take another step forward. But at the end of the day, if they have a pair of running backs to run out there, they're going to be a really good football team once again. And I feel very confident that Kyson Brown is going to become a household name by the end of the year. Feel the same way about Kanye Udo. Very physical guy that can make all types of plays for this team. It sounds like Georgia might be starting a freshman on the offensive line. Juan Gaston is the name to know all around Athens right now. He might be the starter at left guard. This is a very, very interesting thing because not a thing Georgia does very often. There are a couple of guys that have broken through on the offensive line and played in their freshman year, but doesn't happen very often over there, and Juan Gaston is just a physical freak. I think stands at 6'7", around 360 right now, and he's not quite, into the Georgia nutrition and weight training program. He's done a great job this offseason, no doubt about that, but still has a ways to go in terms of, getting his body to the place that it can be. He's going to be a freak. There's no doubt about that. He is absolutely a guy that's going to make big-time plays for him. Everyone's talking about Elijah Griffin, and rightly so. He's making waves in fall camp as well, but Juan Gaston might be the freshman that's the most important for UGA going into this season, and he is showing out right about now. Emmett Mosley, the Stanford transfer to Texas this offseason, has been a little bit limited lately in practice. I don't know how much run he'll get on Saturday against Ohio State. Definitely something to watch there. Obviously, we don't know how big of a loss it is for Texas because he hasn't been on the field yet for them, but a very talented guy that can play both inside on the slot and outside. So definitely a loss. There's no doubt about that. You could see a couple of freshmen because of this. I think you're probably going to see him anyway, but at the end of the day, Emmett Mosley is a guy that I think they were going to rely on throughout the season for a little bit of depth at that position, and might not have him on Saturday. We'll see what happens there, but something to keep your eye on for Saturday. And on the other side of the ball, Ohio State offensive line got a little bit of a mix-up this past week. Austin Sarabel was named the starting left tackle for this team. Kind of opened up a little bit of a competition between Phillips Daniels and Ethan Onyemwa on the other side. Sounds like Phillip Daniels is going to win this thing. A very, very talented kid from Minnesota. Made 3 starts a year ago for them. Played in 12 games. Very talented kid, obviously. This is going to be really interesting. Austin Sarabelt has not started at tackle in his career. Phillip Daniels has, but has not played at Ohio State, obviously. And they're going up against Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, and all of those guys on the defensive side of the ball for Texas. So that is going to be a huge thing to watch this upcoming weekend. They're going to have to hold their own. And if they don't, it's going to be a tough time for Julian Sayin. There's no doubt about that. So a lot of things to watch as we head into game week. It is officially no longer fall camp. We're officially now getting into the games, and I can't wait. We'll break down all the games on Wednesday, no doubt about it, but we're going to go ahead and turn the page to week 1. We're going to get into a couple of questions that I have as we head into week 1, and we'll break them all down right after this, so stick with us.